sir.
Hey, Kelly, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Mhm.
Another show. You go all week and you're kind of man, you piddling, and then you get to the weekend. You're thinking, hey, we got a show coming up, so it's
Yeah,
always something to look forward to. I tell people that Monday is just relax, come with happiness, and just sit back and relax, and then that's what we're about. So we're blessed to have the people who are love and light listeners. And speaking of who we have tonight, um, I'm going to
I
tell you
know.
guys.
I love these two.
I'm always struck program who we really
Uh-oh. Your internet's
love.
breaking up there, buddy.
Can you hear me now? Can
Now
you
I
hear
can
me
hear
now?
you.
Okay, who are loved and respect, and these two are those two people. So I will tell you that without further ado, we bring to the show Ron Yacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez. Woo!
Guys.
Hi guys.
Hello. Look at that. Can I get
Oh,
copies
that's
of those
so
little
cool.
pictures? That is awesome.
With the
Yeah.
radio, it's adorable.
You know
I
who made
never look
those.
adorable. I'm never adorable, but somehow you pulled it off.
See there, look at that smile. Look at that
Yeah.
smile.
I did
Yeah.
something wrong that day. I don't know what it was, but you can
I
see
don't
it.
know. Flip pulled it off. So you must have done something. It may have been a candid
Oh.
photo that you
Yeah.
that you had. Maybe it
We
was
love
one
flip
you-
swirls. We won't admit that in public. We will not admit it in public. We love flip
But
swirls.
you just did.
Never in public. Won't admit it.
Whoops.
Aw. Is it snowy where you guys are in Jersey?
Not anymore.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
We got significant. It wasn't too bad, but
Friday into Saturday. So we were supposed to do this with you guys once before.
That's true.
And the night that we were doing it, 20 minutes before the show, my car got hit, parked in front of the house right here. With all the supply chain nuttiness in the world, it took 4 months for me to get my car back because
Yeah.
of the one part. I got it
Oh
like
my
2 or 3
gosh.
weeks ago. And I came home today and the same parking spot in front of the house was open and I went by it like it didn't exist.
yeah, so we're not doing that again.
Oh, I don't blame you. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. You had to wait that long. That's wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had to rent the car for a long time.
Well, we were glad you guys were okay. That was the main thing. The show will reschedule, obviously. So
We can
we're
do
just
Yeah, so
that.
thank you for the patience, understanding, and having us back.
Yes,
oh yeah,
thank
of course. Of course. We're excited that you wanted to come on.
So now's a great opportunity as this part of the show. We always love to give a little time for you guys to tell everyone out there who you are, kind of where you come from, and what you do in the paranormal, and just loud and proud, share it out.
We always start the same way. You should start first.
All right. So I'm not Lourdes Gonzalez. Let me start with that part. We get confused a lot. That's Lourdes. So I'm originally from New Jersey. I started doing paranormal investigating stuff during the 14-year stint when I lived in Los Angeles at the Queen Mary, Glen Tavern Inn, Omen House. So I've had the blessed opportunity to do some really cool places on both coasts. I moved back here in 2014. We met in 2016, which she'll pick it up from. I was always intrigued by real-time dialogue that I saw with like Spirit Box or Ghost Box ITC stuff. And then 3.5 or so years ago, I came upon something that I couldn't believe was so much of a lost art called direct radio voice, which predates the Frank's Box, the Ghost Box. It's a very pure, basic, like EVP form of communication. And I was stunned at what they got and the hoops that they jumped through that people say we need to jump through to prove what we do. And I was like, I have to do this. And then we took a deep dive and we did a sitting doing direct radio voice, which we'll explain later, weekly or more than one time a week, literally for 2.5 years without missing a single week, holidays or not. So that's my background and where I'm at. And then she can take it from.
Well, as a young child, I experienced a lot of paranormal stuff because my family practices espiritista. But I experienced something that traumatized me. So I never really dove into paranormal investigating or anything like that because I just didn't. Even though I was interested, it was like a big traumatic deal for me. But then I met Ron. And then he dragged me into the ghost investigations and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I really like this. This was it intrigued me. It hooked me like that. And then with my background, it helped me maybe, I'm not gonna say get over what happened to me, but it helped me understand it a little better.
Yeah, growth.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we started doing the direct radio voice stuff because I'm an EVP girl. I love EVPs. They're like my favorite thing. And direct radio voice is very similar to that because it doesn't sweep. It's only in a station there's barren of any radio shows or anything like that. And when something comes through, it's so pure that's why I love it so much because it's like an EVP. But direct radio voice, the purity gets me. So I'm hooked.
And you did some inventing too, Ron, right? You've kind of tailored some of your devices to be a little more receptive to those stations and channels. Have you tinkered with that sort of thing?
A little bit, but not in the traditional sense of what you would expect from like a ghost box builder. What I've done is I've taken the initial art form in its purity, and she described it really well. It's literally a long, medium, or shortwave AM frequency. AM better than FM because of the bands are bigger. They're more prone to interference, which if you're communicating through what's called temporal synchronization, which is not line of sight like a radio tower in your radio, but from another realm or wherever it is, you want interference. You want something to be able to fuse with your receptive signal because it's coming from who knows where. So I wanted to do something like that. And so we took on doing direct radio voice with the empty bands. And what I've done over the last couple of years is I've experimented with mixing a tone in somewhere that's something that's around maybe the male-female human vocal tract in the 200 hertz range, give or take. I've done what's called heterodyning frequencies. I've taken two unique frequencies through a mixing board and created one frequency that's the sum and difference of those two. I've used an AI component, which is meant to take the white noise and separate vocals from it. Which is one big reason why you can't use a ghost box, let's say, or a spirit box with that method, because you're putting vocals into the thing that you're trying to filter out for making them audible. But the art form is totally pure. Like she said, originally early ITC in Europe, they used white noise on an empty channel for audio support to enable EVP. And then what happened was a lot of the messages they were getting said that they were going to, if modulate the sound, it's going to come through the radio. And then that's where direct radio voice was born. It is one step shy of the purity of EVP. The first time we did a direct radio voice session, and I had this big Grundig boombox radio it's a big German boombox radio, had all long wave, medium, short, everything. And she called me the LL Cool J of ITC because I have the boombox.
It's like so big.
First time, I love Keith laughs at our stuff. The first time we got a direct response out of that empty white noise, out of nothingness, that answered us clearly, she hugged the radio in ways that made me jealous.
Oh.
So he's not like inventing, he's more like experimenting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he does the heterodyning. He's found a couple of plugins that he uses. So he pretty much tailored it to where it's better for us. Like it's we get stuff out of it from how he's tailored it.
We're trying to make it real-time audible. That's the goal with ITC, is to try to have real-time dialogue. So one of the things I didn't want to do is I didn't want to, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? It's the best real-time, like we're talking now, conversations I've ever seen in ITC is not on a ghost show. It wasn't with a sweeping ghost box. It was direct radio voice with an old vacuum tube radio, which pre-transistor. That's how they worked. And it was an empty channel, and they were talking like we're talking now. And I watched it and went, why is nobody doing that? It's a grind. It's not instant gratification, which our society is kind of conditioned to want more. But I find that the brevity of the messages is not as limited. We get longer sentences and phrases a lot of times. The clarity and purity of it. And in Europe, they'll never say ghost boxes and stuff don't work. I own a bunch of them. I love them. I think any method, if an app works, you use it. But in Europe, where they were doing symposiums and conferences and trying to raise money, they had scientists on both sides of the equation debating whether or not this is this and that. anything that's low-hanging fruit for the cynic, and I say cynic because people who call themselves skeptics oftentimes are not skeptics. A skeptic wants the truth. If you think this is all BS, you're a believer. You're just a believer in a different paradigm that doesn't gel with the person who thinks everything's paranormal. That's a belief system.
Ron, say it.
That's a belief.
That's right.
Yes.
It's a belief system. That's Webster's dictionary. That's what a skeptic is. They look for absolution and truth. If somebody thinks everything's paranormal or nothing's paranormal, that's a belief system. And in Europe, when they're doing these conferences, they don't want low-hanging fruit for the person who goes, maybe it's radio or maybe it's this. So even though the ghost boxes absolutely work, they feel like you're putting vocals, human vocals, fragmented or not, into the equation. You're putting vocals in, and your goal is to get vocals. So they think, no. And that method stayed pure. They didn't use that. They never adapted to that, to that mentality. Where on American television, the spirit box has to be 7s, 11s, which are great. They took
not
root.
to say that it doesn't work, because they do.
No, I have a bunch of them here. I will try everything. I think to be ITC practitioners, I have to at least have a familiarity with something, or I can't speak to it. I can't speak to it. If I can't say an app is garbage, and I've never tried it.
Sure.
People will do that. And, spend the $15, $10, whatever it is. It doesn't work. And you know what, by the way, if it doesn't work all the time, that's okay too.
That still doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Because, we deal with that all the time. Oh, if this talking to ghost stuff is real, how come you can't just do it all the time and they're just not always there? Let me explain something to you. I pay for this thing monthly. And sometimes I call people and I can't connect to them. And that's Verizon with a monthly payment. Right? So you're talking about otherworldly communication. It cannot work 100% of the time if this doesn't.
Yeah. And you can't guarantee spirit either, as we all know.
Right.
That's
huge. That's another thing, right. People, we don't control at least 50% of what's happening. We don't control. And I always speak to that too. When people go, well, for science to accept it. And by the way, science is not one guy. Okay. If you think science is one guy, you probably think sex ed is one guy who got a lot of action in high school. It's not. Science is a method of inquiry. I love Keith. Science is a method of inquiry.
What is Texas delay?
But it's true, though.
This is a fun show tonight.
Yeah.
People will say that. They go, well, one day science, blah, blah, blah. No, science is not a guy. It's not one lady or one man. Science is a method of inquiry. It's not an ideology that everything has to fit into, right? So when you're talking about this stuff, you can't say, well, science will accept it maybe if you can replicate it 3 times in a lab under the ideal same conditions, 3 times in a row. That's like what Einstein would say. If you measure, if you evaluate a fish by its ability to climb, it'll go through its whole life thinking it's stupid.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not a fair measure of it. A perfect example to go to this. It's an electromagnetic functioning device. I can use this to communicate with people who are not in my physical space. Sound familiar? I call my father 10 times today. He picks it up once. By that line of science accepting it logic, my father doesn't exist because I have a 90% fail rate and I could only do it once.
That's right. It's a very good way to put that, Ron.
You're spot on tonight, Ron. That's a really good way to put that. Is something I'm sitting here, just my jaw, I'm in awe. I'm like, yes. How many times have we talked about the fact that, so many people out there think that they go in a building, the spirit's in the corner, we set our equipment up and go.
Yeah.
You don't think there's nights that those spirits might want to go to the bar? Why do you think you go to the bar and get activity? Because I'm here to tell you, they could come and go, and they do. Right. And we go to these places over and over and over. Okay, if you're here, give me a sign of your presence, please. And they're like, I'm sick of these guys. I'm sick of it. I'm not doing this tonight. Hey, Debbie, you want to go to the bar? Come on, I'm buying tonight.
Let's leave these
they're out of there. And then people say, I'm not getting anything. You're probably not going to. I've actually got an EVP of one that says he's gone. We got a little bit of communication, and the female spirit says he's gone. I said, Chuck, we just heard your name. You said it's Chuck, and she goes, he's gone. And you know what? We didn't hear his voice the rest of the night. He was like, what's up? How y'all doing? Man, I love you guys. Hey, let's take a photo. I'm out of here. You got a better chance of going to the bar and getting that. But when you talk about those applications and these ghost boxes, the reason I talk a lot about it is I had firsthand opportunity with my twin brother to talk to him on Earth before he passed on a Tuesday, and said, Kevin, you know what I do? He says, yeah, I know you do that ghost stuff. And it says, it's very important to me and the family that we just try to know that you're okay. Let's just say that. And he says, what are you going to do? Call me on the telephone? Now, watch this. That Sunday, he died at 2:30.
Wow.
That Thursday, when we had the services, I waited till that Friday morning. And I kept feeling he was like around me because I kept getting this, hey, like tap, 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 tap. And I was like, okay, I got a feeling he's trying to let me know. I turned on that thing and I sit there, and Tracy, who was a friend of ours, who was a nurse, she passed. And I think that was a spirit guide to the other side. And I said, Tracy, can you go get Kevin? Can you try to find him? And she goes, I will. So I wait a while, and finally I hear Keith really loud, and I'm like, Kevin, I could tell it was his voice. And I said, I told you I was going to try to call you. I told you I was. And he laughed. You hear a chuckle. He goes, yeah, on that telephone.
That's
I told you. I told you.
That's brilliant. The fact that you remember
before and after.
Yep.
And he said it here when he was alive. He was very sick, but he goes, what are you going to do? Call me on the telephone? Because he always had humor. And I cried, and he goes, no, I get it. So when I finally got the nerve, and I did, and I says, Kevin, I'm trying to get a hold of you. And he came through. It's like he wasn't sick anymore. It was like, hey, hey, bub. And then he goes, yeah, on the telephone. And I go, oh my God. I got up, I'm walking around, I'm crying, I'm going, yes, he's okay.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The illness is the physical body. First of all, that's probably why he sounded better. She also nailed something a minute ago that's really important to this too, when she said the two words free will, right? Even when you call somebody like on a cell phone, to go to that example again, right? Sometimes you call somebody and they go, oh, I can't talk to them now, and they don't pick up. So you have to factor that in, because if you're talking to spirit or whatever you think you're talking to, and you're expecting you might get an answer, which is the whole reason to do it to begin with, right? You wouldn't talk to your couch because you don't expect anything. But if you think you might get an answer, then that's implying that there's an intelligence inherent to the process. And with intelligence comes choice and free will. So another reason we may not always get communication when we want it is because it might not be up to us to always have somebody pick up the other side.
To pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Right. And I even say to my, like galleries or private clients, it's all in what you can as a human receive at that time. So it depends too on your day and the things going on in your personal life. If you're trying to reach out to particular people and you don't hear from them, it doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means that you have other things you need to hear, or other people that have message that need to get it to you. So whether you're in a public setting, an investigation, with you all, or if you're, having a private event of some sort, you still can't guarantee that they're going to relay, come through or relay some magical thing that you're hoping that they do. Those experiences are amazing and they do happen. I'm not trying to downplay them, of course, but at the same time, you also can't guarantee that. And spirit's from my experience with spirit, is very respectful. If they know you've had a very emotional day, they may not come through with something ultra emotional because you've already had your fill of that for the day. So it all depends too, on the people that are there, your intention. We always go back to that. And I think it's so fascinating. And I do see a couple questions in the chat, so I'll stop yapping and put on a question here for you.
To tag on to that real fast too with the phone thing, let's say you have intent to talk to them, they have intent to talk to you. You ever call somebody and they're driving through an area in the middle of nowhere and they can't talk to you, even if they want to? Since we don't know 100% of what the conditions are that make communication with spirit, especially electronically, possible, we don't know all the ways that it happens. If they have energies that they avail themselves here, which you think they would, because at least in part, we don't know the source of the vocal or the communication, but once it's recorded onto one of our devices, at least in some part, it is in league with the laws of physics here because we've captured it in some audible fashion. But again, it's this temporal synchronization. You have communication, transmission, reception that are not in the same plane. So it's very possible sometimes, even if they want to and you want to and everybody's intentions are there, it still may not be possible for conditions that could be environmental or circumstantial.
Right. Very good point.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Our dear friend Tracy says, how can you make a spirit box? Now, Tracy, there is a piece of tech called spirit box too. So you may have to hit on that, Ron. And then how do you know it will be ready to work?
Honestly, you can get a spirit box SB7 or 11 online. I recommend Steve and Katie Holte, Katie Stafford, Jay Prather, Austin Maynard. This is a box that Jay Prather makes called a direct link.
A ghost box.
It's a ghost box. So these are sweeping. These are the ones that sweep through frequencies. This is a Steve's box. Steve Holte made a Steve's box 52. It's got the radio there. This is a sweep circuit in the back. This is one of the ones that was made by Austin Maynard out of Ohio. This is another ghost box that sweeps AM, FM. It also has shortwave. This is a ghost box that was made by Katie Holte. It's green, actually, because of the green screen. You can't really see it. It's a retro style looking radio. So here's the interesting thing, that when we do direct radio voice, one of the radios that we've got astounding real-time communication like we're talking right now in is this. It's a world band. And again, the screen's
I know, I was looking at
it. But it's a world band radio. It's got AM, FM, long, medium, and shortwave. And we put it on literally an empty channel like that.
That's all we have.
If you want to know how exciting our life is, we listen to this a lot. And then, of course, sometimes I'm using a software that filters sound out and the AI component I mentioned before. So if there was broadcast, you'd have heard it. There was no broadcast. And then when you get vocals that not only come through, but respond to you in real time we always govern whether something is legitimately inexplicable or what you would consider paranormal by timing and relevance. If I go, what's in my hand, and it says computer mouse or mouse, the odds of that coming through on a broadcast on an empty channel, first of all, or even on a ghost box, is astronomical. If I get that from a broadcast at the moment that I'm asking for it and it's timed and relevant that well, I need to find out when they're giving away cash and prizes because my luck is incredible.
Well, that's an interesting point because I did the same thing you're saying there. It was Eat Me Alive one day. I says, they watch us, right? Because they say our names, they see us. So I did a little fun research just on the cuff, on the fly. So it was morning and I had my cup of coffee and I was holding the cup and I had my box out and I said, okay, you said you can see me. They say, yes. I said, okay, what am I holding in my hand? It's in the morning and I hear one of them say, coffee. I say, that's good. So I get my dog. His name is Petey. And I pick him up and I'm holding him. I said, so now, what do I have what am I holding now? Can you see what I'm holding? I got two responses. One of them, a lady says, a puppy. And a very distinct, and I think it was because of the accent, second one was a man, and he goes, a dog.
Right. And so in order to buy into that story, it doesn't take belief in the paranormal. It takes belief in data. Data is king. So if you've got a recording that says that at the time that it is relevant and it's exactly what you were holding, that's data. And that's what we call, when you have audio evidence, a PPO. It's a permanent paranormal object. You can review it over and over. You can share it with people, get opinions. You could do a voice print. You could speak into audio software and say what you thought you heard. And if it matches on the visual spectrograph, then that's what you heard. So that kind of evidence is not so easily dismissed. People will shoot it out of hand because it's hitting a core belief for them, or they're vested in the position. It doesn't want, that doesn't want that to be correct. So they'll kind of like, well, I don't know, I don't know, but it's really hard. You can't dismiss something like that. The timing and relevance is far too uncanny for that.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Kelly, I think Bob had a question. He was in there.
I'm just starting with the questions. I'm back in the chat a little bit farther because we had a few in a row. So this one, I don't know if you guys can see, but what resources can you recommend to learn more about DRV and HZ tone overlays?
For DRV, Dr. Annabella Cordoso, who's in Spain, and she's ITC royalty as far as I'm concerned. She worked with Dr. Ernst Sinkowski, who's the one who came up with the term ITC in the 1990s in Germany. He's a physicist, or TCI in Europe, which is Transcommunication Instrumental. She has 3 books on direct radio voice. There's a documentary called Calling Earth that has
It's really good.
Marcello Bacci from Italy, who used a vacuum tube radio like the one pictured behind us here. He's what I call, if you want a sports analogy or sports phrase, the GOAT. To me, he's the greatest of all time. What he got in real time, I've never seen on a show or anything like it. Unprecedented. As far as hertz tones overlays, I don't know of a magic elixir as far as tones go. I know that some of the old experiments on ITC, like when they had Spiricom with William O'Neill and George Meek, they used 14 different tones that covered the male vocal tract, and they were piping it through a whole thing, and then they were broadcasting it and receiving it in the same room. So we've experimented with putting tones into the mixer along with the white noise just to see if we could do what the Ghost Box does, which is when you have fragmented sound sweeping, you're giving them vocal tones, you're giving them tonality, because whatever the energy form or thought form or consciousness that we're speaking with doesn't have a larynx and vocal cords. It can't make a mechanical wave like we do when we talk. So we're trying to provide something that might make whatever thought form or receptive modulated sound we get out of the radio more intelligible, more understandable, discernible in the moment, so we can actually have communication and not have to go back and review everything to see what we got. So I would say we've tried 200 hertz. I've tried to stay somewhere between 150 and 250 hertz, I guess, but that kind of overlaps a little bit with the male and the female vocal tract as far as the hertz level. Interesting, when we ran it through the AI, it seemed like it threw it off a little bit because it's not supposed to have tones. But just to try it, we kind of ran it through, and we're looking for answers. I'm taking an old method that has produced the best results I've ever seen,
An experiment,
which was a lesson, right? And to me, that's also a lesson too. Sometimes to look forward, to know what forward is, to go forward. If you turn around, that is forward now. And sometimes if you look back with reverence to what's been done before us, the shoulders that we're standing on, like the European direct radio voice, you see unprecedented levels of communication that were crazy. So I'm trying to take that, and then I'm trying to play with it with some modern stuff with software and seeing if I can make something that's more intelligible and more efficient for what we're trying to do now. But we're looking for answers. That's who and what we are. That's why we all do this.
The goal is real-time communication.
Yes, we are curious. We are Homo bewilderus. That's what we are. We want to know.
Oh. Well, I think that's just amazing. Like I've done 1 or 2 events with you guys, and I love watching you work, so to speak. I work what we do in quotes because it's fun too. But I just love I love watching you, and I'm so not techie that to watch you is amazing. But Ted has a commercial break in a funny question. He wonders if you're going to come to his event and do stand-up, Ron.
Ted Von, I love Ted. Don't tell him. I'm not admitting to Ted Von Son that I love him either. Ted Von, I love him. I won't say it in public, but I love the guy. He's awesome. I would absolutely. I had such a great time talking to him when he interviewed me. Like you guys, he's such a grounded, down-to-earth person. He's so real with what he does. You don't have to agree with somebody's every thought and thing to have love and respect for him. And I think he's so well studied in this stuff that people can get caught up with, being on the same page with everybody. And it's okay if you're not. Sometimes we're not. And then we learn from each other in those moments. But he's one of those guys like you guys who the level of integrity in what they do is never in question. And that's huge, because at the end of the day, who you are as a person is bigger. Your standard for yourself, for how you do everything at a level of excellence, is bigger than what you record onto a device.
I think you just made my year. That coming from someone as a colleague, and you two, and then of course Tony, and I love all those guys. I've got to do some stuff with them when we were at Paracon here last couple of years. That means a lot, because you're taking people who are so loved and respected, and then you're also in a field, and then they make that compliment. It means a lot. And so I just want to say thank you. That we try to our standard even for this show is it's you've got to come with love and light. We don't do the unkindness and the cussing and all the other unnecessary stuff that you see on some of these. It's
The
it's about
nonsense.
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
pressure.
So
Yeah.
and we still got this guy here now. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Bob Burnell. He's probably one of the most intelligent guys out there in the paranormal field that I've had
We
the
need that.
pleasure of. Bob. I mean,
No, but we need that.
well, but he's a super sharp guy. But he's got you a question in there too. Question for one, Ron. Why is it most EVPs sound like the person is so far away? What do you think?
Honestly, I'm going to say that we don't really know. It's funny because you mentioned Tony. That's, of course, Tony Rathman, who also one of the more brilliant people who does
Absolutely.
ITC work, and just a good soul of a person, too. He always says that we don't know any more about how the vocals get captured through EVPs or things like that than we did when they first started capturing them on magnetic wire recordings.
It could be so many reasons.
We don't know if it's an imprint. Sometimes you'll get you'll get a response on a device before you finish your question, which begs the question if they're hearing us through the mechanical wave and the sound that we're emitting somehow, or is it consciousness, and then are they getting the thought form before we actually even speak it? Maybe that's part of our mechanism to say it, but we don't really know, in which way they're receiving it. Well, that was the thing that enamored me about ITC more. So much was focused on our side of the equation. How do we receive them? How do we change the circuitry and do this and do that? And everything was so tech minded here. And I sat back one time and I went, how are they hearing me? Like I'm in my kitchen. Or I mean, like we were sitting one time at the dining table at my old place, and the sound of the empty channel was going. It was choppy. I went, that sounds like helicopter interference. We're right by New York City. Maybe it's helicopter interference. I don't know. It's interfering with the radio frequency. Who knows? Just under 2 minutes later, a vocal came out of the radio, completely modulated. It said, "Not a helicopter." Now, I don't know how anybody, a baby monitor, a CB, a ham radio, how are they hearing me? I'm not transmitting with a microphone outside. When you speak, the mechanical wave or the sound we make, that's a disturbance. The whole, if a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it? There's a school of thought called biocentrism that suggests no, because it's a disturbance in the air, and without a receptor to pick that up, microphone or ear or whatever, it does not, in fact, make a sound. So when I speak, that mechanical sound can only propagate so far, and then its coherency gets leveled out by the evenness of the air, and it's gone. So if somebody's not within earshot, basically, how are they hearing me? But I'm getting direct responses from who knows where out of this radio that's on a frequency that nobody can even broadcast on if they were listening to me somewhere else to come through.
Wow.
That's interesting
Wow.
because I've even went and asked when I was mesmerized by that, and I asked those questions. I says, "Where are you? You're answering these questions. Where are you right now?" And I get, "Behind you." And
Yeah.
Yep.
and it's like they're right there, and it's kind of like this little paranormal little, the spirits are there around you. But I think it's because the ones who emit the most beautiful energy, they're receptive to. When you don't, and they don't want, they're like, no, they see a darkness with you and this static unkindness that they kind of come up and then they just walk away. But if you're like this trying to get answers and peace and respectful, I think that then they're like, okay, we're going to talk to these two because they're trying to maybe help to where I can tell my daughter one more time that I love her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe they'll be the ones to do that. And I'm going to tell you, fella, when you do that and you get that opportunity, it makes everything we do in this field so much worth it.
I agree. I think intent is a bigger part of it than people realize. Again, I think a lot of ITC, that's why my take on it and our take on it a lot is a little bit more philosophical than technical, because I think that's part of it. And that whole concept for me was born out of the fact that I saw a guy with a vacuum tube radio. His tech could not be older. And he was getting unprecedented conversation in real time.
Real time. Yep.
And I was like, there's got to be something to it that is beyond technological advancement that's working for him, or that worked in that instance. And even Dr. Annabelle Cordoza, who mentored me into this direct radio voice stuff too, whose books I had recommended before, she has 3 radios running in her studio on different shortwave frequencies. She gave me the frequencies. In Spain, where she is now, they're completely barren, empty, no radio emissions. And she has one microphone in front of her going into a mixing board. Those 3 radios have one microphone in front of 2, another one microphone, a third one in front of the 3rd radio. And she asked Spirit one time, she goes, why do you always seem to come through that radio? And she got a response with clear tonality that said, because that's your favorite.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And as far as the prior question before, I mean, there's so many reasons why maybe they sound far away sometimes and sound closer. I mean, wherever the voice is coming from, I mean, maybe there was something that disrupted the sound. You know, like if there's a door, like here in door, so maybe there was something that when it was carrying the sound to us got disrupted and lowered the sound when it came through. Who knows? There's like so many reasons why
That's
they
true.
sound far away sometimes,
Sound,
and sometimes they sound close.
Refraction of sound. Also, and actually that was brilliant you said that, because it speaks to the intent thing we were just talking about. Sometimes, like if we're on a train somewhere and we see somebody wearing like goofy clothes and I want to tell her about that person, but I don't want them to hear me, what do? I lower my voice. Or maybe I back up, I get further away. So we don't know when we're getting communication from the other side. Maybe they're further from the receptive point or wherever the sound is bleeding through to where we are to be recorded. Maybe they're keeping a lower level so that we don't hear they're talking to each other. I mean, there's so many variables without knowing the other side 100%. Those specific things we can only guess at, and we can theorize based on, you know, a congregation of evidence that we have and say, well, maybe these things correlate, and that's why. But it's hard to really know. It's fascinating to me, the fact that they can hear us from wherever they are, not in line of sight. We can't see them, and they can hear us, and then they're able to come through the device. We don't know if this has anything to do with what quantum physics calls non-local correlation, where two specific objects can have distinct communication regardless of distance without emitting signal. We don't know if it has to do with that. That's where science may be able to collectively break us through to something where our understanding will expand. But a lot of it we don't know. I guess if you should answer the question, do you recommend being with a group? Using a spirit box they can be used alone. The reason it's better to do something like that with a group, the only reason is that a lot of times when we do a session, if we hear the same thing, that solidifies more what we heard, because we all heard the same thing. Especially if the level of clarity is that good. Always record it when you do it, even if you're by yourself, because then ultimately you're not alone, and then you have what I referred to before, which is the PPO, the permanent paranormal object. You can go over again and over again and over again.
Sure. This is kind of her 2-part question. She said, what if an entity comes through that you don't wish to chat with? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, we always ask for entities of love and light only. I don't think we've ever encountered
We've had a couple times, rarely, where the sessions seem to get dark.
Yeah, that they curse a lot, like really, like, you know.
But we'll say at the beginning, you know, we don't welcome it, we don't accept it, and we'll say that we'll shut it down.
Yeah, that's
so
what we'll do.
My short answer to that question is right here. It's called the power button. And so unless they can turn this back on, including if I take the batteries out of it, then we're done talking. So if it gets to where you're not comfortable with it, you can always shut it off. And then that also, you know, that could speak to the intent. If you're with other people, maybe they have bad intentions, or maybe they're so doubtful of this stuff that who knows. But yes, Andy Andrews, it's all about respect. Everything you do in your life should have a level of respect to it, whether it's self or others too. Like, you'll never hear me. It's not that I've never disliked somebody or something they've done before, but you'll never see me posting negative stuff, talking about people that way, because I hold me to a standard. And if I have an issue with you, I'll talk to you with the hopes of resolving it.
Right.
But that's to me, that's a code of conduct that I hold for myself. And if somebody doesn't like what I do or believe in what I do, that's fine. I'm not, if I get a pat in the back, I appreciate everything. But my quest is not TV or a pat on the back. I'm really genuinely driven by how crazy this stuff is.
Chris, all good in the house.
All good.
There he is, Mr. All Good.
He's another fantastic person that we get to work with on
I
the
know.
show.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Every one of you. I've been looking to see Tony the Man in here. Woo! Pop in and rock and roll and strut and stroll.
So I have a
Right up at
question.
the
He started a
show.
new job, so
I have a question for you guys. I've never asked you this, but I
Okay.
have a feeling if my dad's watching, this would be his question that he'd want to know.
Mhm.
Have you ever received any sort of message or tone that appears or sounds as if it may be something that's more of an extraterrestrial transmission?
I knew she was going to start. Yeah.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
we have had voices like that, and I am in the opinion that not every time we have something come through is spirit. I think sometimes it's extraterrestrials. I think sometimes it's spirits. I think it could be possibly other dimensions sometimes, because sometimes we get like a conversation, this something that's happening,
Okay.
like something that happened in the past or maybe the future, who knows? But yeah, I would say yes.
And I get it, and I don't necessarily disagree. The only thing that I try to keep in mind is that the reason that for both of us, we thought maybe that was something that could have been extraterrestrial, let's just say, and I'll tell you what the thing was. But the reason we think that is because of the tonality and the sound. It had a little bit of a rough synthesized metallic sound to it. Is what we have learned through media to be the voice of a robot or alien kind of thing. So because it identifies with a profile we're familiar with, I think there's somewhat of a cognitive bias built into that to identify it as extraterrestrial just because of the tonality of that, when it could very well be a mechanism within the method that we're using.
But that's not the reason why I believe it, though. I honestly,
I know, right.
Because we really don't know who we are talking to.
No.
Honestly. So I've always thought that regardless of the sound of the voice, of the tone. So I don't know.
So we were at the Shanley Hotel in Napanoch, New York, which is an awesome place. And we slept in the bordello room. I left the boombox running on the floor for 4.5 hours that we got to sleep. That's a lot of sleep if you investigate, by the way. And you know what I'm talking about. And I listened to 3.5 hours of exciting, I know. And then somewhere close to the end of it, I heard
at the end, of course.
Now that's what's called the noise floor. You have that static that's consistent, right? The noise floor bottomed out for reasons I have no idea, except maybe that something was taking over the frequency. And then it says very metallic and synthesized, "We are with him." And I was like, I'm the only him in the room. Check, please.
And while we were sleeping, I was hearing a voice in the radio going, "Ron, wake up, Ron, Ron." And I'm half asleep though. That's enough, because I'm like, I'm hearing what am I hearing? So, and then when he reviewed it, he got that "We are with him." It was great.
That's what it sounded like.
Just like that.
So I got a little something. Someone I talked to this morning, just really quick. Ryan Seymour joined the show.
Oh, hi, Ryan.
Ryan Seymour. You talk another sharp guy. I'm gonna tell you, this show has opened my eyes to some of the most beautiful, amazing people, and just to get to talk to them and what he brings. But I wanted to ask you, because I talked with him about this today on something I sent him. Have you guys ever documented on any of your recordings this warping sound of like something that sounds like this? A
little bit, yeah. Actually, if you listen to the old Spiritcom recordings that William O'Neill did,
that's exactly how it sounds like.
Which some people will say hoax, some people will say not. But it did have that kind of you can create that sound if you use a long wave radio and you go on single sideband and you do a fine tuning within the single sideband. Basically, any radio wave has a carrier wave, and it has an upper and a lower sideband. All the data is encoded on both upper and lower sidebands. So when you suppress the carrier in one of the bands, let's say the upper, the lower sideband has a stronger and more intense flow to it, kind of like if you put your thumb over a garden hose and refine the stream.
Mhm.
If you fine tune within that, you can create that sound by just moving the tuning knob a little bit. I think even Marcello Bacci did a very small toggle on a shortwave channel, not like to the extent that would be considered a manual sweep, but very small, and he created a little bit of that sound. And then his noise floor would bottom out, and he would get this whooshing wind sound, and then complete silence, and then a moderator would come through, and it was magical.
Wow.
It's the pitch. It's the picture I caught with as that sound happened. So me and you'll have to talk at another time because we got some more questions.
Yeah, we got a few more questions.
Yeah.
They have to get ready for their show, so we have
Yeah.
to speed them in here. So you can see Kitty's question.
Yes, Kitty. First of all, she's a brilliant author.
Oh.
Please, I think her book When the Dead Speak. Please look for her book. She's fantastic. That's a great question. Have you gathered any evidence to suggest souls become the elements, earth, wind, perhaps tree? So it's interesting. I've not collected any evidence that I could point to that. I think that's such a brilliant concept. I would want to look at data that I had and anybody else had and see if there was any collective aggregation of all of it that maybe could hint towards that. Nothing communicative that that I've recorded where something said that, but
That's a good question.
it's interesting
Maybe
because if you ascribe to the whole energy can't be created or destroyed concept, then technically when if you burn a piece of paper, the energy that's trapped in that paper was captured in a leaf or in the wood through photosynthesis, and then now it's being re-released into another form, right? So it's possible, right? If you look at it that way, if the sun is what causes photosynthesis and that photosynthesis causes light to turn into food, then technically we're all fire eaters, right? Because
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, that was a really good question, Kitty.
Here's one.
how do you think the spirit box works? A spirit taking phrases being spoken or in a response to spirits white noise. That's interesting. I would say that both are possible. So direct radio voice takes the first one out of the equation because it's just the white noise. So whether it's a thought form or whether they're actually somehow using something to create a disturbance in the air that mimics the way we create a mechanical wave to come across that way through the modulated sound, perhaps. The idea behind the spirit box is supposed to be that originally it was software called EVP Maker made by a guy named Stefan Bion. And then the Frank's box and those boxes and the ghost boxes that followed came with the same concept. Was if you were sweeping through the frequencies, you didn't have the same words, vocals, etc. in the same order repeated over and over and over again because it was completely randomized. It was sweeping very quickly. You're going across stations that aren't saying the same thing at the same time. So the concept, to my knowledge, at least, and you may get different things from different people in ITC, and I would not say they're wrong. The concept is that they're using the fragmented vocals in the sweep. They're using those tones to come through and form words by manipulating those tones. Does that change the game a little bit? It can, as far as if you think it's male or female, because if they're using male tones coming through, if a female speaks through a male's voice changer, she's not going to sound like a female. So, I mean, it changes some of the things are connected. So when you change one of those things, if you say, well, maybe it's this, then you have to think the next few steps forward because it may also alter, other parts of it.
Wow.
We have two more questions for you guys. Hi, Kevin. Kevin's question about where do you see ITC research going?
Another great guy. Hopefully in the same direction. So one of the people that I love that I met through doing our show is Austin Maynard, who's out of Ohio. He's trying to unite. He's doing things to bring ITC people together. Too many people, that guy's doing this, that sucks. Why he's wasting time with that? All he does is this. And the problem that people don't see is that not only does that energy not move the field forward, but you're peeing in the community pool that you're swimming in. That helps. That helps nobody. That helps nobody. Dissension amongst the ranks doesn't help anybody. If you don't think a method works, don't use it. There's a lot of people doing stuff that is different than what we do. We're the oddballs with direct radio voice compared to the most of the ITC world, and especially in America, is ghost box stuff. But if you look at the people who are building these boxes and doing these things, these people are brilliant. Jay Sprager, Katie Stafford, Austin Maynard, Steve, Katie Holte, Tony Rathman. These guys are brilliant. They're making, and I'm sure there's other people I haven't named. They're making fantastic stuff. Joshua Shaw, Rob Hernandez. These people make great stuff. Anybody who tries anything and then it works or it doesn't work, that is a step forward because they tried something. because they experimented. That's what we're supposed to do. Anything, what was it? I'm trying to think of the quote, but anything that appears fantastical or magical at the beginning is very hard for people to swallow. But these people who take these steps to try to create these things and test different things, that's what we need. If people didn't experiment, we wouldn't be where we are now. So hopefully I see research going in a direction where even if we're not all doing the same thing, at least we're working towards the same thing, and we're acknowledging respectfully what other people are doing, so that we can factor in everything with a broad knowledge. That's why we take a very philosophical approach to this stuff and not just technical, because I think that also allows you to have a level of empathy and understanding. And I'm mesmerized by people who do stuff that I don't do. I don't build ghost boxes. I have a bunch of them, and I'm mesmerized by the people who do this, and they are brilliant people.
This guy right here, speaking of brilliant, Ryan Seymour, Kelly got to investigate with him, and they had a ball. But
yeah,
he's got a great question. If you don't, Ryan, if you two hook up and get to talk or become friends, how magic could that be? But he's got, what's been your favorite visual capture that's been most compelling to you? What do you think? Ron's sitting there, his mind is spinning.
We have two, and it's in the same place, guys.
Yeah, we got two of them.
Well, one of them he got before he met me.
Yeah, both of them I got at the Queen Mary. The first one was in 2013. The entranceway from the big gallery into boiler room number 3. They oversold tickets on the ship that night. The gentleman who hosted the investigations, Matthew Schultz, who's from Para Explorer, who's amazing. He said, "Go ahead." I was with someone at the time that I was with when I lived out in California. He said, "Go ahead. You've heard my spiel." So 40 people are facing this doorway towards the boiler room. The only person not looking that way is him, because he's addressing the crowd. So I took a couple throwaway pictures, which when I got home later on, there's this full dark hooded robed shadow figure standing in the doorway, which has to be close to 7 feet tall. There's this bony hand in front of the handle. There's no door handles or anything on the side of the room that we're on. So you can only see the one open door, but the other side, there's this bony hand hanging in front of it. It's freaky. The other one was also at the Queen Mary. I captured it when we were together in 2016. Yeah. And then we went back the next year to see if we could explain it or maybe, debunk it. We wanted to see if we could figure out a rational other than paranormal explanation for it. And basically what happened was that I've gotten so many pictures of the ship. It's this beautiful, elegant piece of floating history. And I never got a picture of the sign, the Art Deco sign that says observation bar. So I stepped out of the bar, no patrons. One waitress. She walks across the door.
He waits for her to walk across.
I step back out of the door into the hallway. I snap a picture of the sign. 5 months go by. Why? Then I look at the picture, and there's this what looks like a partial apparition of a female, and the side profile of like a child looking off underneath her in the window. And I'm like, that's nuts. I didn't see that. So we go back the next year, if you want to tell that part of the story, and we get the table right by that window, and we try to see if we can explain it away.
We try to, We went back. So we see that there's, the window, and there's tables and chairs. So we're trying to figure out, could it have been the tables and chairs and how it is? And we're going back, and we're going like this. Then he would go to the window, and I was like outside, and then we would switch. We were like back and forth 20 minutes, and finally the waitress comes and says, "What did she say?"
She goes, "You guys gonna order anything?"
Aww.
Be very, very quiet. We're hunting ghosts.
Yeah.
Be very, very quiet. Oh my God. Well, we're getting near
that's the priority of paranormal investigating. It takes precedent over anything else that you were going to do. So very easy to lose time for sure. But
she had stories of her own too.
Yeah, before you have to hop off, can you please tell everybody in the chat where they can follow you? Or
they love you guys. Look at the comments. They love you guys.
Oh, thank you.
We love you guys for having us on too.
Yes, thank you.
We have as much love and respect and admiration for you guys as you've shown us. So we really appreciate this.
Talk to Tony for us and see if we can get him on.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, Tony's great. And what a smart guy too. He's another guy. He's just I could listen to him talk for hours too. He's just
walking encyclopedia. He is.
Yep. Very smart guy. So we have a Facebook page called ITC, The Invisible Art, which is what Dr. Annabelle Cordosa called it one of her books, which I loved because it is not only an invisible art, but is I think a lost one. We have a website now called Gonyak, which is spelled like that, Gonyak Paranormal. That's like Gonzalez and Yacovetti put together. Gonyak, Yakgon sounds like a pest control product. Didn't work. So we went with Gonyak.
Much better.
GonyakParanormal.com is the name of the site. And we have a Gonyak YouTube channel also.
Oh
Keith is awesome.
His laugh, he has a great laugh.
Yeah.
He does.
I'm not even drunk and I'm laughing.
Oh,
And
and
then
you
we're
guys have
on-
your show, so tell everybody where they can see your show.
So we are on after you guys on Mondays on KGRADB. It's also you see it on Facebook or Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence, YouTube or Facebook. The show is called Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. We do the same thing I was talking about before. Is we realize that this is not all about us, and so we have investigators and people from the field from all over. They share evidence or experiences or both, and we discuss where and how and what they did to capture it and stuff, and share it with the audience. And it's fascinating every week to see how many people are doing such amazing things and catching incredible stuff. And it's if you want to feed your ego, then you want to think it's just you and you're getting all the good stuff. But if you want to be realistic and part of a successful movement, man, are there some good people out there getting some good stuff. And I tell everybody, we are not the ITC and paranormal community is not great because we are in it. We are in it because it's great.
Well, I mean, I know that you guys are great investigators and you have incredibly high. One of the things I love about the two of you is your level of ethics for what you do. And of course, that's kind of drawn me to you both right away. So we're very appreciative. Everybody's still leaving comments about how much they appreciated you all coming on and they admire you. And now they know where to follow you. So that's good. But we'll leave you hop off so you can get on your next show. So any other person in the chat can hop off too if they want to go watch Ron and Lourdes the show.
We will encourage them to come watch us after you guys any week. If you guys are still on, stay with. I encourage everybody to keep supporting you guys in your show too. We appreciate. We really do. We appreciate this a lot. I was looking forward to this, and I was so disheartened when my car got hit.
Oh my God,
months ago, right before the show, and we couldn't do it. I was like, wow. So
that's okay for a reason, I'm sure. So
Bob Burnell sent you a friend request, Ron, so you know. And this guy is such a sharp guy. What a sharp guy! What a sharp
I love that.
guy.
I love that. That's the. If I had to say any reason that made me smart is because I'm surrounding myself with people like that.
This guy's sharp. I love getting to talk to him. All right, y'all gotta have fun on your show. I appreciate y'all guys.
Thank you guys.
Guys.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
They are so fun. Oh my gosh. I could just talk to them all night long. But hold on, buddy. So
I'm excited.
I still have to get my copy of this book. I don't have it yet, but it's like the perfect cozy weather to be able to here in PA anyway, to be able to sit down with this book that you're going to talk about. So
So folks, I don't think it's any big surprise that most people in the field know. I have a very close friendship with Brandon and Mustafa. I've had the pleasure of getting to meet them several years ago, and even before this book even became to light. But I will tell you, if you don't have the book, I'm letting you know right now, there are books in the paranormal, and so many of them are great reads. For the paranormal investigator that wants to really get in and have a template, a guiding something to go by and read and learn and kind of start the process of a foundation of education, this is your book. And I say that because look at the people who are on there. It always tells you a lot when you look who wrote the book. Well, you get the pleasure of not just one brilliant person, but two. And that's Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Galilari. and they are close friends of mine. But I will tell you, I pushed this book, and I'm talking about it right now because I believe in this book. Most people knew that I was a fire captain for many years, and education was a must for doing what I did because I literally risked life and limb doing what I did. But in the paranormal, we're going out and walking into abandoned buildings and doing other things. This book talks so much about your way and a process where you can go in and start to look at the paranormal from a perspective you probably never have before. If you don't have it, we can see if we can get the link up, but it's easy. It's the elements of a haunting, and it's out there now. If you're going to be going, yeah, okay. So there, our dear friend
Ryan, way to go!
Ryan's a rock star. If you want to look, Ryan Seymour found the link, and he's got it on there now. So there it is, folks. Ryan put it up for you, and again, they are going to be at some of these Paracons that I've noticed. So you may get a chance to pick it up there and then get them to autograph it. But we support the people we love, and both me and Kelly believe in these two guys and know that they're the real deal. So go out there, get this book, and start the process of giving yourself an opportunity to learn even more about a field that we all know and love. But now take the opportunity to get it and broaden your horizons on the field, because it's a great book. So, hey, thanks a lot, Ryan, for doing that for us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for linking that, Ryan. We appreciate it.
We want to say so much to our guest tonight.
Oh my gosh,
Ron Yacovetti and Lourdes. Oh my God, the time went by so fast. But what I loved is every one of these people in the chat room, as you started watching, were like, "Oh, I got a question. Oh, I got another question." And there's some people we haven't seen here before. And I always tell folks, Monday nights do not have to be a night of, it's a Monday night. Look at the show that they're on right now. They're on it right now. What a great lineup. We're on, and we're kind of, maybe we call us the opening act up to those rock stars, because they've been around longer than a lot of us. But what a great show as well. So support the shows, get on. And by the way, me and Kelly have been talking. If there's some people you might want to see on the show, let us know. If you happen to be someone who is well loved, respected, and do magical, amazing, beautiful, love and light things in the paranormal, and you'd like to talk to us, reach out to us. But our theme for love and light in this field and what we do on the show is going to continue. So please know that we bring love and respect to this field, and our show is pretty. You could set your child down right next to you, and at this show, and you're not going to hear words of unkindness or the other unnecessary cussing or other things. We just don't believe in that. That doesn't make for a show.
I could just bleep it out.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that though.
When your bleeper's going every other word, every other
word is a bit much.
No, we have the people we have on the show are a lot of the ones who are the I guess I would say more seasoned, been around, respected, loved, and just do amazing things in the field. So
yeah, we're also going to have a little up and coming segment about particular paranormal teams. So if
there we go.
Have a team or a part of a team, want to recommend a team, reach out to them and have them contact us. We're going to do some segments coming up about highlighting teams, and we'd love to hear from you. So
the team theme,
reach out to us.
So there's a great deal. We wanted to say so much though. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being our love and light listeners. We can't tell you, both me and Kelly, how much it means to have you pop in here and spending a nice enchanting little evening with us on a Monday night, because it's if it wasn't for you guys, well then, what would we be doing? So thank you so much. We love you guys. Two more weeks we get to come back.
Great. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.